What's good, all you homies out there who are tuning in to another awesome episode of the freshest video game podcast out there that has ever been created. Yes, we are fresher than your local farmer's market and more direct than I guess fresh direct. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with that. I didn't workshop that one when I was writing the notes. It sounded good in my head. We are the Split Screen Cynics, and we're here to provide you with our brand of video game pundit-ism. You can find us on every major podcasting platform that there is. Please subscribe. We are also on Twitch at twitch.tv/split screen cynics. Please follow. And also on YouTube. Please subscribe. That was the quickest I've ever done the intro and also the housekeeping. You know what? I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one.
That went pretty well.
Yeah, I was going to be like, you know what? I'm going to get right to the point with that one. Wherever and however you enjoy the show, thank you. We are just glad that you came and taking the time to join us. We appreciate you. We also appreciate your time, so we'll try not to waste too much of it. With that out of the way, let me introduce to you two of the coolest dudes is Garrett. Garrett, how are you, sir?
Hi. I think my internet cut out there for a second. Sorry. I am doing well. I am now sweating because I had to turn all the fans and AC off for the recording. But such is life when you're podcasting. You gotta sacrifice sometimes. But I'm good. I'm everything's good. I had a nice 4th of July. Saw some fireworks down at Breezy Point.
Nice.
And I've been playing some video games, so pretty good.
Well, that's good because we're a video game podcast, and it's one of the things we happen to talk about. The other thing is sweating.
Yeah, I mean, I also have a delightful rice lager from KCBC out of Brooklyn with lime. So it's like a fancy Bud Light lime. It's A+.
I was about to say that is a like very craft Bud Light lime.
Yeah, shout outs to Jack Dolan. He's Puckhead1994 on Twitch. He actually got me 4 of these. So he knows exactly what I like. But I'm good. How you doing, Berto? Everything good?
All good over here. You know, it's the walls are starting to look a little bare, taking everything down because we're getting ready for the big move. Moving sucks, but thankfully we're paying people to do it for us because we don't want to have anything to do with that shit.
Good play.
To my other right, another very cool dude. That's right, Big Butt Daddy himself, Tim. How you doing, Tim?
I'm in one of those like good news, bad news situations. I'll do bad news first because I like to feel better at the end of the day. I had a dentist appointment today, and the bad news, I have to get my wisdom teeth taken out, and one of them like caused some problems for some of my other teeth, so it's bad dentistry going on. Dental.
Yeah, but wisdom teeth out is like having gotten all 4 at the same time. It's really not that bad. is what I remember. Like they just give you laughing gas and then they give you a bunch of like painkillers.
I'm hoping just easy, painless stuff, but yeah, hopefully the rest of the stuff going on isn't bad.
That laughing gas stuff is really good. When I do remember when I had mine removed, I didn't even realize when the dentist was done. All I remember, I was so loopy and I was like crying for reasons that I couldn't quite figure out. And I almost fell off the chair because I was that loopy.
Sounds terrifying. I hope that doesn't happen to me.
I mean, the after wasn't that bad, but like I literally closed my eyes, counted backwards from 10, and then when I came to, he was already done. So I'm like, okay, well, at least that's one benefit.
I don't know. My brother came out of it crazy loopy. I pretty much had a good time. I was just like, oh, okay, I don't feel anything. And I laughed at jokes. Every joke was good. But what's the good news, Tim?
The good news is that my CS team won our playoff match yesterday.
Yeah,
so
what?
It was not all for nothing. All the hours and hours we've been putting in. We won our playoff match, so we made it to the next league at least. But you know, hope we all agreed going into next season that we're not gonna go as crazy about practice as we did this season. So I'll actually have some free time. So as you know, as much as I would have liked to just be like, well, we lost, fuck it, I'm done. Can't do that, but you know, gotta look at this as a positive.
Yeah, I mean, so can I just ask about the league itself? Like, so essentially, if you win a playoff match, you're invited to the next league. Kind of like Cal, where it was like you stepped up. Okay.
You have to have like a good enough record to make the playoffs, and then based on your seeding, you might play a team that's better or worse than you. And then if you win one match, then you move up one league. If you win 4 matches, you move up 2 leagues. And then if you win the entire league, if you get first place, then you move up 3.
Oh wow, okay, that's cool.
Jeez.
So our next match is Thursday, but honestly, we achieved our goal. I've played in 10 plus seasons, and I've never really been on a main starting team member on a team that's moved up. So I'm pleased I was finally able to do it. So yeah, gotta counterbalance the dental bad news with the Counter-Strike good news.
Hey, and that's some hella good news. So cheers to you, Tim.
Cheers. Nice job. Go Tim and the Counter-Strike. What's your team name?
Gamer Girls Guys.
Oh, Gamer Girls Guys. Okay, got it.
Go Gamer Girls Guys.
We did it.
Yo, Adrian, we did it.
I'm asking Berto, what have you been playing? What's your plan?
Oh, wait.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
There we go. Sorry, I didn't have time to make a pop up for when we get to the third segment, so it's just going to be the two typical segments.
Yeah. Can I hold on? Let me interject real quick. Here's a new thing. Anyone listening out there, I am now doing like weekly what you plan things on Instagram, so that's a fun place to tell us what you're playing, and you can hear what we're playing right now. Berto, what you been playing?
I have been playing a lot of Cadence of Hyrule. That game is ridiculously fun. If you've never played Crypt of the Necrodancer, it's pretty much the same style of mechanics, same style of game. It's just Crypt of the Necrodancer with like a Zelda skin on it, but it doesn't feel, aside from the mechanics, it feels very much like a Zelda game. You make your way across the map and you're like, oh look, here is a wall that looks like I could bomb my way through it. So it definitely just, it's like if you took the Zelda game and added the Necrodancer mechanics to it, that's exactly what this game is. It still feels very much like a Zelda game despite it not being developed by Nintendo, which is a testament to the developer whose name escapes me at the moment, and I had it open in the show notes, but I don't have that tab open and I'm too lazy to tab over to it.
Fair.
But to their testament, it feels like a Zelda game. It's not a Nintendo. It's not developed by Nintendo, and that doesn't take away any of the fun of the game.
I've actually heard in little brief reviews I saw about it that it's like people are saying it's one of the best Zelda games. And it doesn't really feel like a spin-off, so that's pretty dope.
No, and that's exactly what it is. Like, it does not feel like a spin-off at all. It's like if you would have told me that Nintendo had, some sort of development say, or like they co-developed it, I would have believed you by the way the game plays.
Is that a roguelike like Necrodancer? Okay.
Yeah. So, like you lose all the rupees every time you die, you lose all your items. The main items you keep, like if you get like a long sword or a broadsword or any of the key items, you still keep those. But like if you have a bunch of arrows for your bow and you die, you lose the arrows, you just keep the bow. So you have some roguelike elements.
I actually picked up Crypt of the Necrodancer on the Steam sale because of that whole because I saw such good reviews on the Cadence thing, so I'm excited to try that eventually as well.
Yeah. Cool. I'm having loads of fun, and the music in the game is where the game really shines, in my opinion. The game mechanics are fun if you're not into the moving on the beat and trying to keep pace with the beat, because obviously like in the Necrodancer, it's a rhythm game, so you have to move on the beat, you attack on the beat. But if for whatever reason you're born without rhythm and you just can't play the game on the beat, they do have a mode where you can turn that off and you don't have to move or attack on the beat, but the enemies still move and they still attack on the beat of the music. So if you're having troubles with that, you can get rid of that and still play the game that way. But I think that it's a lot more fun if you try it on with the music and try it on the beat, because that way you can like really appreciate the music, because you have to really listen to it and pay attention to it, and the music is just so good.
That's the weirdest part about watching the game is like the beat mechanic. I feel like doesn't make sense unless you're playing it. Because I've watched like little videos of it, and I'm like, I don't quite get like how like it just looks weird. Like, do you have to hold a direction and it like, or do you literally tap to the beat?
No, you literally tap to the beat. So you're listening to the song, and depending on which area you are, the songs change. So if you're like in Hyrule Castle, it's going to have a different theme, a different song to it, versus if you're in the desert, then you're like, it's like a remix of, the Gerudo Valley. Or if you're like in the swamps, it's like a remix of, like Kokiri Forest, just to, throw an example out there. So the music changes depending on your environment, and you'll listen for the beat, and then you'll notice that like when the beat hits, that's when you got to like physically press the button to move on the beat.
Oh, I'm excited to try it. Certainly, it looks weird. But...
it definitely is one of those games where you really have to sit down and play it to understand it. Because if you're watching someone play it, you only get half the benefit and half the enjoyment, because you're like, okay, I sort of see what you're doing, but you don't quite understand it until you actually have the controller in your hand and experience it yourself. So it's really, and it's not that long a game. It's only about 6-7 hours long, like all told. And halfway through the game, once you get, a nice assortment of weapons, the challenge it doesn't really get much more challenging than that, but it's still so much fun. So been spending a lot of time with that. Obviously Void Bastards we've been diving into for our third segment, but obviously we're not going to touch on that very much until segment 3. We're going to really dive into it. And the other game that I really found myself just kind of hankering to play for reasons I can't quite fathom is Legend of the Mystical Ninja, starring Goemon for the N64.
Yeah, you texted me about that, and I was like, oh, respect.
I don't know why I just got the urge to play it, but I went out and I finagled my way into playing it, and it just brings a smile to my face. That game is just so bonkers, and it's so weird, and I love it.
You said you might be trying to, or have you been streaming that on Twitch?
Not yet. I haven't actually even played it in earnest yet, because I wanted to make sure that everything was working, that it looked fine, and that it was running fine before I actually dove right into it. But I think I'm going to make that a stream game, just because it's just such a batshit crazy game. And when I first started playing, I was just walking around, getting the controls down, configuring everything. And I forgot that there's a mechanic that if you hold down one of the shoulder buttons, like you duck, and then you kind of like crawl, but you don't really crawl. The character Goemon kind of like worms his way across. So he's kind of like,
he's just like scooting.
He's just kind of scooting like a worm, but he's not really crawling. His arms are at his sides the entire time, and he's like... And then the other guy that you start off with is like this fat ninja, and then what he does is he lies on his stomach, on his back, and kind of like moves on his back. I don't know how, but he's like, but on his back, and I'm like, oh God, I love how dumb this game is. I love how crazy it is. I love how quirky it is.
Yeah, I played the Super Nintendo one with my old roommate Matt, and it was a lot of fun. Really good game. I didn't get a chance to play through all of the N64 one, but it seems very similar.
Oh yeah, the humor is the same kind of humor, and like I said, I'm looking to start streaming that game just because it's just such a bonkers game.
I'd love to watch that, just because I don't think I've played any of those games at all, so I know of them,
But yeah, that's what I've been playing. Tim, what have you been playing, dude?
I've been playing a few different things. I had an opportunity over the July 4th break to play a game that I haven't played since it first came out, which is Resident Evil 0. I was playing the remastered version. It's been so long since I played the original that I don't know how much of a difference is in the remastered version. But it's cool. It came out really close to the Resident Evil remake that was released on GameCube, and it's clearly running on like the same engine. Mm-hmm. And the big gimmick in that game is that you control 2 players, which you kind of swap between. And I don't know how far into the game I made it, but probably my guess would be around like a third to halfway mark. And while it does feel great to go back, I can kind of see why it's kind of a forgotten game that no one really talks about. It really leans on the whole like you're controlling two people mechanic a little too much, and I haven't died many times, but every time I've died, it's been because of stupid swapping character mechanics going on, and it really like it's one of those square peg round hole situations where it's like we really want this mechanic to work, so we're going to design the entire game around it. And
now, can I ask the swapping between people, because I haven't played the game. I know of it storyline wise, which is that it's basically right before the events of Resident Evil 1, I think. But is it you literally have two people on the screen at the same time, or is it sort of?
Yeah, there's an AI that can control it, that you can set it to like idle or attack, or you can have them stand in a room. They can go into different rooms. You can swap between them instantly. It works relatively well, but then there's sometimes like the last thing that happened before I stopped playing was I was running through a room because it's a Resident Evil game. You want to try and conserve ammo when you can. I was running through a room with some enemies, and I get to the door and go through it, and then it just decides that one of my characters didn't make it to the door. So I instantly switched to the character because I noticed they're not in the room with me. And as soon as I gain control, I'm facing away from the door, and I get hit by an enemy and die. And I just feel robbed.
Yeah, that's kind of tough.
It's like, so this game just robbed half an hour from me, basically. And, what are you going to do? But it's still cool. I'll probably try and finish it still, just because it does remind me a lot of Resident Evil Remake, which is such a good game.
Now, is this the one where the game takes place on a train?
It begins on a train, but yes. And that was great. And then the train crashes, and it's just a generic Resident Evil game, which is fine. But it certainly has its issues. Other games I've been playing, I played a couple games that I grabbed for a grand total of $1.80 between the two of them. The Room series. There's a third one, which I think is like $1.80 total as well.
Now, is this anything like the movie The Room?
That is the first question that anyone should ask. And no, it's not.
That is not the first question people should ask.
It's not. It's a very cookie cutter kind of puzzle game. I've seen comparisons to like the Myst series, but it's much more confined. It's basically like I don't know why it's called The Room, because every level is a different room basically. But you just have like a box in front of you or something, and you have to click around on it and solve all these little puzzles. And
this isn't based on a Flash game, is it? Am I crazy for thinking there was a Flash game that this is?
It could be. I mean, The Room, it's like one of the most generic titles of all time, but it's just a series of little puzzles, and if that's what you're looking for, it's fine. Playing through 1 and then 2 within the same couple of days, you see a lot of the same puzzles reformed into each other, and it gets a little tedious. And it faces the same problem that almost every point-and-click puzzle game runs into, where eventually you're going to just start clicking on things, trying to find that hidden pixel that's somewhere that you're supposed to click on.
Right.
But, can't argue with that price tag, although it's going to probably go back up to its normal price very soon. But, if you have a couple bucks trying to solve some puzzles, can't speak ill on it.
I was kind of hoping that this was, because I think they did actually make, and I don't know if it was just like a proof of concept or somebody just fucking around, but there was like a Room video game where it's like a little Tommy Wiseau with like a giant head.
I think it was like a Flash game for like Adult Swim or something. But
I was like, oh, that was. If this is that game, I will go and spend the $1.80 to buy it.
It was not, unfortunately.
It was not.
But yeah, those are fun. And I got a chance to play some Mario Maker with my friend Ben and his girlfriend. It was mostly them playing because.
Is this Mario Maker 1 or 2?
2.
Just checking.
Yeah. And Mario Maker, I gotta be honest, it's really not my thing. If there was any kind of idea before that it might have been my thing, I kind of confirmed it that it's really not. Maybe I was just overwhelmed because I was hanging out with them for most of the weekend and they were playing it the whole time, and I was just like, oh, okay, come on, guys,
let's play something
move
else.
it along. But
come on. There's other games out there.
It seems really well designed. It looks really easy to make cool courses. It looks like an insanely well designed game, and I can't speak to the improvements that they've made over Mario Maker 1 because I didn't play it that much, but it looks great, and it's fun to mess around in some levels, and I like the concept where you can just get those, like, it's like kind of like an endless mode where you're just trying to beat these random courses on certain difficulties. We were playing on the normal difficulty and getting destroyed, which made me feel bad about my gaming skills, but maybe you're a better gamer than me. Maybe you can crush those levels, but we were struggling. But yeah, it just reminds me of those old Kaizo Super Mario World mods that from back in the day, where it's just like, oh, you fell for the trap, try again next time, and then it can be fun grinding out a level, but yeah, it's not really my thing. But it could be yours. You never know. But yeah, what about you, Garrett? What have you been playing?
So I'll just piggyback right on there because I did pick up Super Mario Maker 2. I did actually have the first one, but I think the first one, my main issue with it was it took a while for the community to like figure that game out a little bit. So the levels and the way they organize things wasn't really where it needed to be when I was playing it.
Well, that was on Wii U, right?
Yeah, it was Wii U.
Which was a much less popular console.
Yeah, so that was probably part of it. I've actually heard that the Wii U, like the pad was amazing for designing the levels.
Yeah, like the one thing I heard about people who've played Mario Maker 2 on the Switch is that they were saying they kind of miss the Wii U version because it was the kind of quality of life changes they tried to make for the Switch, taking the Switch is like form factor into consideration, doesn't really like it was a step back from what the Wii U was. It's like, yeah, it works for the Switch just because that's what you're working with from this handheld kind of device, but it really kind of is a step back from what we had with the Wii U.
And that's something I can't really speak to because I honestly don't pick these games up to make levels. I've never been good at that. I've never really been that interested in that. I'm sure if you sat down and really took your time, it could be fun, but I just don't have the patience for something like that because, like, I don't know, something about it. Like, I've designed levels for, Polar Bear Panic back in the day for a project, but I don't know. It doesn't work for me. But what does work for me in this game, certainly the single-player mode, is pretty great. I don't know if, Tim, they were playing that at all.
They were, and I definitely helped out in some levels.
And that it's cool because it seems like Nintendo, the designers there were really just like letting their imagination kind of flow and not being restricted to normal Mario kind of level setups.
Right.
So like, one of the early levels I played was like, you can't jump. So the whole level's about like not like, it's not even just jumping. You can't like be in the air at all. Otherwise you lose the level. So it's this cool, like you have to ride on top of things and like,
that's really cool.
Like there's cool little things like that you normally wouldn't see in a Mario game. And like unique ways of doing it, like kind of that on off switch idea where it's like, okay, platforms are red and blue and the red ones show up and then the blue ones show up, but you can set that off with a shell bouncing back between the switch and stuff, like just really unique ideas. So the single player to me is like almost worth it alone. I haven't played that much of it, so I don't know, like, is it the craziest longest game or anything like that? But as Tim was saying, the online mode is set up way better where they have this sort of like endless challenge where you pick a difficulty and it just throws levels at you constantly. And when I was playing the Wii U one, it was like every high rated level was just like, oh, like don't do anything, and Mario just like finishes the level and everyone's like, oh, it's so cool. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever.
I hate those autoplay levels. Yeah. I'm not a fan.
I get it. Like conceptually, but I don't want to do it. Like I don't want to watch a Rube Goldberg machine play out, and that's my level.
It's like I already did my time watching somebody else play a game when my older brother was playing video games.
Exactly. So so far I'm liking it. I think a lot of it is just that the online seems better set up. I've heard the co-op and stuff is not so good. I haven't tried any of that. I heard it's super laggy, which is unfortunate, but that's Nintendo. But I don't know. I kind of like, I know Tim with the Kaizu levels, like a lot of those things, they're designed where it's kind of like the creator's like, haha, like this will get them. And a lot of it's sort of memory. But like I've played a decent amount of levels where it's more about challenge, as far as like, oh, you have to jump and, spin jump and hit this cannonball to make it and then wall jump there, like versus, the sort of, oh my God, you'll die here if you don't know what's coming. So I'm liking it so far. We'll see. I kind of bought it on a whim. And I think it'll be fun maybe to bring it to Growlers and let some other people try out some levels. I think it could be fun to stream too. Like the endless mode is a fun stream setup. So we'll see.
I was debating getting that because I never played the first one on Wii U. And where my wife and I are one of the few people that own a Wii U. So I was like, I kind of want to try it because I want to try these, sadistic levels that people make. And also I want to try my hand at sort of making some levels. And I think that my levels would just be a bunch of bullet bills being shot in every direction because I'd start realizing that I have no innate level designing ability, which is why I never got into video game development proper.
And some levels are like that. Like there's levels where it's just a bunch of spikes and you just have to keep bouncing on stuff. Like, and those are fun. Like it adds some, the endless mode is great just because it adds flavor. Like you get levels where like people actually design like a real Mario level, and that's cool. And then you get ones where it's like a race against time, stuff like that. So I've been digging that so far. I haven't played too much of it. The other game I started actually with Tim was Divinity Original Sin 2. We picked that up on the Steam sale. We started a co-op playthrough, which I think is one of the coolest parts about that game. The fact that you could just do like a co-op playthrough of like a weird party-based RPG game. And I don't know, I was having fun so far. We didn't get that far. We basically like did the tutorial and like the basic starting thing, and then we screwed up and kind of reset a bit. But I'm excited to try that again. Hopefully, Tim and I did that in the first game, and we did a decent amount of it. But like as things go in that sense, like it's hard to schedule those things sometimes. So hopefully we'll get a better playthrough going. It actually made me want to play through the first game, like single player, which I might end up streaming, and do it with like a real team. Because for some reason I did the lone wolf thing. I feel like lone wolf thing is not the way to go. That's basically where you don't get teammates, and your character's strong, but then like, essentially your character's stronger, but you don't have as many moves to do per turn, and you don't have as much CC and stuff. So you're really making the game hard for yourself for no reason. But
I mean, that's kind of like right up your alley.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's weird because in a way it's easier, in a way it's harder. We were also, when we were playing the first game, we played on like some strategery hard difficulty that made more enemies and stuff. So we were just being masochistic in that aspect. Yeah. Also, me and Tim picked up Monster Hunter World, so we might start that again, which is a nightmare because when you skip all the tutorial like text and everything, like you kind of forget how to do anything in that game. I haven't played in a while, but that should be fun.
It's like riding a bike; it comes right back to you.
Yeah, I think the Greatsword is just my issue. I was playing the Greatsword on the first mission, and then also weirdly enough today I was just testing out recording. And I started playing Sekiro, so I just beat the second playthrough of Sekiro today because I was basically on the last boss, which felt great because that game just feels great to play. I probably will do another playthrough or two to try to get all the endings, maybe, because I just love that game.
Ooh, sounds like an early contender for Garrett's personal game of the year.
So far, it's probably winning. But yeah, so that's what I've been playing. Steam sale. I definitely have a bunch of games in the chamber, so I'll be switching to some of those as we go. But yeah, I think that's it for what you're playing.
Sounds dope. Looks like we've been playing a lot of good games, and
yeah,
we're
going crazy with that stuff. Switch
how
segments.
about we do a quick, not so awesome segue because I'm not very good at those, and we shift away from what you're playing to our cynical spin.
Yeah, let's do it. I just drank and a splash of beer just hit me on the nostril. I don't even know how that happens.
How does that even? You know what? Hey,
it smells good.
Sometimes you just gotta get some beer in your face.
But yeah, cynical spin. Sorry.
Cynical spin, our first news item of the day. And again, like this is sort of an old news item. People have already talked about this, but I wanted to bring it up because I wanted to get your guys' take on the whole Dr. Disrespect saga from E3 up until now. No surprise, everyone's already talked about how Dr. Disrespect was caught, streaming. He was doing an IRL stream at E3 on the show floor. He goes into the bathroom, starts streaming from the bathroom, gets promptly kicked out. He has his badge taken away from E3, so he gets kicked out of E3, gets suspended. And hold on, I got to do this in quotes. He gets banned from Twitch. Gets reinstated 2 weeks later, and then he comes out with this kind of like half-assed apology. I have the article here from Kotaku, from Nathan Grayson. I just highlighted a couple of things where Guy Beam, who's the actual person behind Dr. Disrespect, and he came out and made the apology as Guy Beam. And here's what he said. When we were walking around and filming at E3, we clearly weren't thinking about the laws, repercussions of filming in the bathroom, because honestly, it wasn't in our mind at the time. We were so into the E3 IRL journey that we became a little blind in what's okay and what's not okay. We had no ill intentions, and I feel that it was pretty obvious. If you watch the entire thing. We wanted to capture an adventure. Unfortunately, we took that adventure into the wrong areas, unaware of the legalities surrounding it. On behalf of the Dr. Disrespect brand, I apologize for this. Highlighted some other things here in the article in Kotaku where Nathan says, on the one hand, this was a much needed apology, which I agree. Guy needed to come out and make some kind of statement because he had been radio silent for a while following his ban from Twitch. But then Nathan continues, but on the other hand, it reads almost like Beam is using his character and brand as a shield against accepting full responsibility for his own actions. Beam is Dr. Disrespect. He is the brand. So it's odd to see him apologizing on behalf of the brand. After all, Dr. Disrespect is a character created and played by Beam, and presumably Beam is in full control of his faculties when he's playing the character, regardless of how much he's yelling. Wanted to get your guys' take on this. This seems to me like it was, yes, he needed to come out. In the face of all that, he definitely needed to come out and make some kind of statement. But then when he's like, I apologize on behalf of the Dr. Disrespect brand, it's kind of like he is washing his hands of anything, saying, listen, Dr. Disrespect is edgy. He's cool. He's like he goes for the shock factor. And I'm sorry if the brand, did something it wasn't supposed to. I'm like, dude, my guy, you are Dr. Disrespect. What the fuck?
Tim, you want to go or should I go?
You go first.
All right. So this is a weird one, especially as a guy who streams, has been somewhat streaming for 3 years. This actually got brought to my attention. I was listening to the Playing the Game podcast over at youthegamers.com. So go check that out.
Nice plug. Nice.
I know that was a good plug. I'm happy. But I was listening to them talk about it. And I had seen the articles about him getting banned at E3, and I was like, whatever. Because this guy is not new to controversy. I know he had a thing where he apologized on stream because apparently he cheated on his wife, and that was a weird thing. And then he gave up for a day and then came back. And yeah, the whole apologizing for the brand thing, I think, is a tough sell. I kind of get it, because clearly he's putting on a persona a little bit. That being said, the actions you take in that persona doesn't excuse you from the actions you're taking while pursuing that persona. Filming in a public bathroom is really not appropriate anywhere. I know that he does this kind of stuff. He's always looking for, kind of edgy reactions. He attacks people on Twitter and stuff. And I get the character. I understand it. And it sells because he's one of the bigger streamers on Twitch. He has been for a while. Really, what I hated the most about it was the kind of smirking kind of like shitty attitude he had towards the seriousness of it. And this issue really streams from Twitch and any of these media sites, YouTube, whatever, and the way they handle these kind of suspensions, bans, whatever. He was actually making emotes for his channel of him like peeking over a bathroom stall and stuff after he got the suspension. So like, that's really not like, that's a big fuck you, I think, to small time streamers and content producers who, there's a guy, and I don't have this up, but you could probably look it up. There was a guy who was banned indefinitely from Twitch after he raided another channel. There was a bug where the raid didn't go through, so he thought, like, according to Twitch and how the software should work, his stream should not have been on any longer, and he took his shirt off to change his shirt, and he was banned indefinitely because there's, like, a no nudity clause or whatever. Now, you have several different female streamers who have shown nudity in various ways, done terrible things that are against the TOS, that make a lot of money for Twitch that get, like, a week suspension. You have Dr. Disrespect, who does something pretty abhorrent, I think. He was, literally bothering like a father and his son in the bathroom on live stream. Also
illegal.
Completely illegal. Not only on the terms of service, but it's literally illegal in the United States.
Exactly. In the state, at least in the state of California. I don't know if in the US,
yeah, it might be different state to state, obviously. But like, he does this and he gets a 2-week suspension. And I think that's the worst part of it, especially as a small streamer. Like, as a small anything content producer, the big money names are basically untouchable, and the little guys don't matter whatsoever. Obviously, coming from Twitch, they make money off him, and if they ban him for life or anything, or if they ban him for a month, he's just going to go to YouTube. You know what I mean? So I get it as a business decision. It just sucks, like especially for the little guys. You get guys who get banned indefinitely because someone heard them say a slur, and then, you watch the video and it's like, okay, I could see how you could hear that slur, but obviously he could be saying something else that just kind of sounds like it. So that's my reaction. It's like, I don't really care about Dr. Disrespect. I understand the business decision, and I don't think I could see it going another way. It just sucks for the little guys out there. This happens on YouTube too, where the big content creators get all the power and everything done, and the little guys don't really get to afford it. So I kind of see his point in that, he's supposed to be an asshole because that's the character, but like that, you can't use that as a defense. So the half-hearted apology is like just kind of icing on the cake because he just doesn't really care. And he doesn't have to care because Twitch isn't going to do anything about it. So that's my personal thing. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant. Tim, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen the video. I can't really speak to the extent of it. And I think that a lot of it kind of comes down to that. Obviously, in any broadcasting that's going on involving a public bathroom where other people are involved is completely like irreprehensible. Like there's nothing you can say to really defend that as a thing. But I don't know what can be done. I think you summed it up really well, where it's like Twitch is put in a weird spot where they're like, we want this revenue. The fan base is going to be there, and he kind of holds the power a bit. And I've never been a Dr. Disrespect fan, mostly because I don't care about PUBG or anything like that. And he has always kind of come across as a douche, and it kind of, obviously that's intentional. But yeah, I don't know what you really expect out of him. Like, I feel like we're in an era right now where it's kind of like whenever you do something that's considered, like an obviously bad thing, like you're expected to be kind of punished just in the public forum because of social media and the way things kind of spin out of control like that. And it's kind of weird that something like this would not really, I guess it's just because his fan base doesn't care about things like this. But yeah, I don't know. I have my own feelings towards Kotaku and things like that, and it clouds my opinion and almost makes me understand why Dr. Disrespect could kind of lash out at them like that, because to me, I see Kotaku kind of, like their mouth is watering when stuff like this happens. They're like, oh yes, like an opportunity to just, like morally shame this guy for doing something that's obviously bad, and we're gonna get clicks out of it too. And obviously that exposes how cynical of a person I am. But at the end of the day, I think that it's going to come down to people as individuals to judge Dr. Disrespect themselves and whether or not he's the type of person they want to follow and continue watching. And it's just unfortunate that the majority of the people who watch him probably don't care about this stuff like that. So it's a gray area, but it's, what are you going to do, really? Like, I don't know what the answer is.
I mean, Twitch, what they should do is, if they're going to ban him, 2 weeks is not a ban. 2 weeks it's suspension. It's a slap on the wrist. And like Garrett was saying, what it really does, like the conversation that really should be had at like in the higher levels of Twitch is, why do we have essentially this double standard for our larger streamers versus our, smaller content creators? If the smaller content creators see that we're giving favorable treatment to the larger streamers, first of all, it doesn't look good for us as a company. Second of all, maybe we might start losing market share to your Mixers, to your YouTubes, because they realize, Twitch is not so cut and dry. Definitely, I think Twitch they had a chance here to make a statement, whether it's ban him for 6 months or demonetize him. Like, all right, fine, you're suspended for 2 weeks, but now you lose all your monetization privileges, or you have to, make him donate part of his income. I don't know, do something to make a statement. This was like the time to do it, and they totally dropped the ball. It makes Twitch look bad, and it also shows this double standard, exposes a double standard that everyone sort of knew was already out there, but now like puts it out in the public eye.
Yeah, I think it's weird because, sitting in a business meeting about something like this, if you're just trying to make money, which is obviously what Twitch is there for at this point, after it was bought out by Amazon, 2 weeks is like, okay, we gave him a slap on the wrist, so it looks like we're not, the bad guys here.
Yeah.
I honestly think they should have basically picked the longest amount of time that they thought he would still stay with the platform. I think like a month would have been a little more of a message, and I would have preferred something like that. I think once you get into a couple months, he's just going to leave and go to YouTube. And, I don't know. I'm sure they have analysts working on this kind of stuff, but like,
yeah.
Would those people follow him? Would they not? I think if you pick the right amount of time, you could give his followers a chance to find somebody else, without completely making him leave the platform. But again, like, I don't know what his user base is like, but like Twitch has such a diverse, you have little kids on Twitch, you have teenagers, you have adults. So, whoever likes Dr. Disrespect, there is a place for that in media. And it's weird because this is the new, like, is South Park okay to show to kids thing? You know what I mean? Like, it's the new battle for media, policy and political correctness and all that, where it's, is Dr. Disrespect okay or not? And, I think there's worse stuff out there. So I don't think he's like the worst kind of influence or anything like that, but I do find it tough to make that call because I do want Twitch to succeed as a platform. I think it's a decent platform. I think it has amazing talent on there. But it does hurt to be the little guy in the situation and see, when the big names get in trouble, it's like a joke. Whereas when the little guys mess up, they get banned for life.
Right. Like the example, exactly the example that you brought up before, where it's like the person who did the raid and is like, all right, I'm off camera now, takes off his shirt, indefinite ban, versus Dr. Disrespect, who literally breaks the fucking law. And it's like, boom, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And go to your room, think about what you did.
There's a million stories like that. They're all over on YouTube as well. But I think that's just kind of, unfortunately, the way the world works in most aspects. Like, the people making the money make the rules. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's like that scene in Fight Club where they're talking about, like, from a business's perspective, like the cost of a human life.
Oh yeah. Where
And-
Ed Norton's like figuring out like if it costs less to have the person die than to do a recall, we don't do a
Right.
recall.
Exactly. And
I
that's
remember
what
that
Twitch
scene.
did. That's what Twitch is doing right now. That they're like, well, we could ban him for a little bit longer, and it'll look a little bit better, and people at the lower end of the totem pole will see us in a slightly better light, or we could just get him back sooner and make more money, and more people will visit our site, and we'll ensure that he stays on our platform, and at the end of the day, we'll make more money. And that's what's going on. I mean, Twitch is a business as much as they'd like to pretend that they aren't. So what are you going to do?
Following that whole, the banning and all that stuff and the apologies and the crocodile tears that guy had, did you see also the back and forth that he was having with Nathan Grayson on Kotaku and Jason Schreier?
I did see that. That to me was honestly like, okay. I understand both sides of the argument there, where it just seems like he's just being a petty dude, which I think he is a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it's right on point for his brand, which is like he's supposed to be an asshole. So him, firing
it definitely
back,
was on
okay
point with
me.
the brand, but it definitely rang to me like he was just being petty at that point because everyone was sort of like dogpiling on him, and he's like, "Well, man, I'm gonna make fun of Jason Schreier."
Yeah, and that's to me that's like a Twitter fight is one of the most silliest things of all time. Like that makes news nowadays, beef. But
yeah.
Like I that part I thought was like kind of goofy.
Although I will give major props to Jason Schreier. His comebacks were pretty on point. I did appreciate his maybe if you feel more comfortable if I Skype you from a toilet, and then he's like no, that receding hairline is part of the like that's the Jason Schreier brand, and I'm like.
It was honestly entertaining that part to me.
I was like, I see you, Jason. I see you. Jason got some fire comebacks. I like that.
Yeah, that to me was not a big deal. And it's funny because that I feel like is what drew the most like eyes on it, just because it was kind of entertaining. Again, that's a hard thing to say because we've heard this with radio shock jocks and stuff, where it's like. They tread this line where they're basically assholes, but like it gets views, it gets clicks. So like I understand why they do it, but then they go too far and then they get arrested sometimes, or they get fired sometimes, which has happened to some radio jockeys in the past. So the Twitter thing I thought was mostly harmless, and I thought it was okay. The other stuff not so much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well. Hopefully Twitch starts, changing its tune, starts thinking about the little guys and doesn't just focus on their big streamers. I want to see equal treatment for all streamers, regardless of size. And you know what, Guy? You could apologize on behalf of the Dr. Disrespect brand, but you know what you can't do? You can't uncheat on your wife. So suck it.
You also can't change your name from like a weird Mega Man power up. Guy Beam? What the hell is that? I did not know.
Guy Beam.
I did not know that was his name.
Oh yeah, Guy Beam.
The Guy Beam.
His parents hated him. They just named him Guy.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Right.
I think if Twitch gets to be like this sort of almost monopoly, because I'm surprised it's not, but like I know YouTube and Mixer and stuff like actually has a decent amount of people on it.
They do have a surprising amount of market share when it comes to the streaming. It used to be just all Twitch, or it was synonymous with it, but now there's an equal amount of people who stream on Mixer and YouTube gaming, or even Facebook has a small like contingent, but it's not all Twitch anymore.
And I think once Twitch kind of solidifies its concepts, because now they're playing with like subscriber only streams, and that to me is a baby step.
Stream teams.
Yeah, but like that's a baby step towards like pay-per-view content on Twitch. And once they kind of solidify themselves as the streaming platform, I think you might see harsher action taken against some of the bigger names. That being said, like someone like Ninja, definitely not. But
if Ninja breaks the law, they're going to look the other way.
I could see them supporting the little guys a little bit more once they kind of solidify where they're at. Because I know they made deals like for the Overwatch League where you have to subscribe to watch it or some weird stuff. So we'll see in the future. Hopefully they pay a little more attention to little guys. They've slowly been doing it with like the affiliate program and stuff like that. So we'll see. Who knows? Should we move on?
To go to number 2, and I'm like,
let me sum this up real quick.
Yeah, I was about to say, Tim, I think you might have added this one. You want to enlighten us on G2A PR?
It's such a big can of worms. Have we talked about G2A before on the podcast?
What is this? What is G2A? I have no idea what it is. Sorry.
Tim is going to enlighten us.
G2A? You've never G2A is like it's a website you can use to get like game keys on.
Oh, okay. Yes, I know it. Sorry.
It's like a games an alternate purchasing platform for getting games. Mm-hmm. Essentially, it's like I don't know if they bill themselves as this, but it's like a key reseller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Where you can essentially resell game keys that you have, and it's been a controversial site from the get-go. Like it's very popular. It makes a lot of money because people are always trying to find games. You can get all sorts of games for discounts, but it's in a bit of an ethical dilemma because a lot of the games, a lot of the keys that you can find on the website are purchased or received through less than legitimate means, and it's impossible for you to verify that before you know.
So is that where your Anthem code might have gone?
Probably ended up there, but recently they've kind of come under fire because many indie developers have come out and said, if you can't afford to buy our games, please pirate them. Do not buy them on G2A because you are hurting us even more, because it's basically encouraging people to steal our keys or buy them off, get them on Humble Bundles or something like that for astronomically low prices, or fish them out of places, who knows where, and resell them and profit off of them, and that's hurting us more. So if you can't afford it, just pirate it. And there was recently, a few days ago, a petition that went up, and it came under a lot of G2A has a history of bad PR, and this is only contributing to that. But I know in early 2017 they did an AMA on Reddit that just went about as poorly as an AMA can go. It's like up there with like one of the most downvoted posts on Reddit of all time.
I know. I actually know that AMA. I know.
Yeah,
exactly
I
what you're talking
remember.
about.
I remember when it came out, and it was just not answering any of the important questions. But yeah, they recently came under fire for that, and they've just been in the microscope. And in an effort to fix their PR, they did something really funny. And what they did is, Thomas Faust, sorry if I'm blowing up your spot here, but he posted a tweet where he got an email from a correspondent at G2A that basically asked him to post an article that was pre-written, positively, like a glowing review of what it is. The relevant portion of it is, he posted here. It says, "We have written an unbiased article about how selling stolen keys on gaming marketplaces is pretty much impossible. And we want you to publish it on your website without being marked as sponsored or marked as associated with G2A. It's a transparent and just review of the problem of the stolen keys."
Man.
Did he leak that, or how did that get out?
The reviewer that he was sent this email posted screenshots of
like
this.
Straight up. Oh, that's dope.
Yes. And G2A responded and said, "These emails were sent by our employee without authorization, for which we apologize to," and then he posted the guy's Twitter handle, and 9, and then in parentheses, exclamation point, "other media outlets he sent this proposal to. He will face strict consequences, as this is absolutely unacceptable."
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, wow.
So it's almost one of those, like, at least they're not trying to fully deny it.
Yeah, at least they weren't like, "Whoa, our accounts were hacked."
Like, oh my God, who sent that email mysteriously out, posting glowing reviews about our service?
Yeah, but I mean, whatever. It's their PR tack, and they've made enough PR gaffes in the past to know that denying it fully would probably have been the worst thing they could do. But it's like,
listen, guys, all right, yes, we did write that email, but it was never meant to go out at all.
That was just a beta test email.
Wow. hilarious.
He was not authorized to send that. It was meant to go out via authorized channels.
Yeah, and the timing is just hilarious. Like,
oh man,
just after this indie gaming fiasco, like, that's getting all this heat. It's hilarious. Like, I mean, seeing the fallout from like the AMA going so poorly, and basically them admitting that they have no way of policing. Well, all but admitting that they have no way of policing where the keys they have on their website come from, and seeing how little that did to G2A as a platform, because it kind of ties into the whole Dr. Disrespect thing. It's like, when you're this popular, there's almost no way to have bad PR that's going to affect your business. What do you guys think about A, just G2A as a platform, and B, just this whole mess?
So I always, video games are weird because I always took this weird moral stance where I was like, I'm not going to pirate video games. It's a completely hypocritical stance because I have pirated music and I have pirated movies in the past. That being said, I've always kind of thought that the piracy issue is always just basically an issue with supply. If you have the supply available for a decent market price, people will not pirate as much. Obviously, there's some outliers. There's going to be a few pirates out there. There's been studies that pirating is a good thing usually for getting the word out and getting more people to buy whatever thing you have. But video games in particular, I think the real issue with game sites like G2A and stuff is that the gaming license and how digital media has become a thing is really tricky sometimes. The fact that there are keys and you have to buy keys from Humble Bundle and install them on Steam is kind of weird. It's not a normal way of purchasing things. It's very 21st century. Personally, I don't agree with sites like G2A, only because obviously these keys are not necessarily coming from a good place. Sites like GOG, for example, that are basically DRM free marketplaces, A+. Yep. Go for it. They're probably the most ethical of the marketplaces you can get to, because they're just, here's the game, it's yours, like, no big. They also basically will give you games like on Steam and stuff where you could just buy the keys through there. So I'm kind of a fan of Steam, but I know there's DRM associated with it. But I personally don't use sites like this, but I'm willing to pay money for games, and games that I'm not willing to pay money for, I just ignore. That's my stance on it. Other people think like, hey, if this game's shit, I should be able to play it and see for myself. But a lot of games have demos nowadays and open betas and stuff like that. So personally, I don't see a need for a site like this. The PR disaster in itself is just like, people are gonna always pirate. People are always gonna look for cheaper stuff, no matter where it comes from. So I think it's humorous. I think it's great that like something like this leaked. I don't think it'll affect their overall users at all.
I was about to. I don't think it'll affect the overall user base.
Yeah, I think it might discourage some possible future users, which is a cool thing. Because I think video games, even if they're bad, there's reviews out there. Find people that you trust in reviews and look at their reviews before buying them. Yeah. Look for the bad practices and just don't purchase those games.
Buy some bad games every once in a while.
Or buy Ni no Kuni 2 by mistake.
Buy some bad games and play them.
Sometimes you just get a bust. And it's funny because, again, I'm a guy who I have in my day pirated movies and music. I don't really do it anymore. I have the Alamo season pass or whatever, so I just see movies all the time. But like, to me, video games, like, even if it's a bad game, like, unless it's very atrocious, it's probably worth $60, you know? It'll probably give you enough. You pay $25 for a brand new movie on Blu-ray, so that's like an hour and a half sometimes. So if you get 6 good hours out of a game, it's worth $60, you know? That's just
but
me
even
personally.
if it's like a bad game.
I mean, I got Assassin's Creed Odyssey for free, played 51 hours of it, and regretted every moment of it.
I was like, I was waiting. I'm like, he's going to bring it back to Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Of course I
know
am.
It's coming.
Of course I am. That game, That game is what's wrong with game reviews.
He's like,
in this day and
Ubisoft
age.
should have paid me for that.
Yeah, it's funny. I got it for free, and they literally like, here, keep it, and I'm like, I don't want it.
I don't want to. Don't take it back. Burn it with fire.
But yeah,
it's so funny because a lot of people actually like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so it's funny to see that like you're so vehement. I mean, there's tastes all over the spectrum, but for the most part, it's received like generally favorable reviews.
Yeah.
So I actually got to try this game out to see what is it about the game.
The thing about the game is it's a AAA title, so that's going to get good reviews. It's open world, so some people just really like that, which personally I'm not the biggest fan of open world games. This is a different debate for a different day maybe, but
yeah, that
game has fundamental design flaws in it. And reviewers just overlook them so easy, and I just hate it. That being said, what do you guys think about, like, as far as like if you get a Steam key from Humble Bundle, right, and like give it to a friend, trading, like, I personally think if you acquire the key from OK Means, there's nothing wrong with, you know, either giving it to somebody else, trading it, even possibly selling it. I do think that a site like this, there must be illegitimate keys going.
Oh, I would bet dimes to dollars that they're illegitimate keys being acquired this way. But if in the scenario that you just posited, where you buy a key through Steam, through wherever, and it's like a legit purchase, you know where it's coming from for the most part, you can verify it, and you either resell it or give it to a friend. I don't see anything wrong with that in that instance.
No. The problem with it, well, this all came out because G2A released a statement saying that only 8% of their revenue comes from indie titles being sold. And so obviously, you know, indie developers were like, well, then take them off G2A because we can't afford taking hits like these AAA. Right. And you see it as, you know, I follow like a bunch of game dev blogs and things like that. And you see people just getting, you know, tons of scam requests for keys saying like, hey, like, I'm a reviewer, I need, you know, keys. And it's when you have a reselling option like this where there's no background checks, it's basically just this black market, it just creates this void where, you know, people are just trying to resell games that these free keys that they get, or really cheap keys they get, and it just creates this motivation for people to try to acquire these keys so they can profit off of them. On an individual basis, giving away a key does nothing. That's fine. That's doing it. Even selling a key that you acquired legally is fine. You know, it's not like the game doesn't duplicate or anything. It's like you're just passing it off to someone else. It's literally the fact that there's a motivation for you to acquire these keys so you can sell them. That's causing the problems, and it hurts indie developers. It doesn't really hurt these AAA developers. So yeah. I think it's a good point, and maybe for the first time in the history of the universe, a petition will actually accomplish something. Probably not.
Petitions are worthless.
Yeah. But the sentiment is there.
But I agree, indie developers. Fuck G2A.
Yeah, that's the worst part, is a lot of times in cases like this, like, the little guys get hurt. Again, that's like the theme of our
the
news
theme
this
is the
week.
little guys getting hurt.
Yeah. Speaking of little guys, the Game Freak studio, which claims to be little.
I mean,
make games that have little guys in them.
I mean, they
Not
started
anymore.
off. I mean, they are pocket monsters, so they are. You know, you can fit them in a little Pokeball and put
best. I'm gonna edit that segue out.
I mean, it's sort of it works, but you got to think about it. I don't know. It's one of those things where if you got to explain the joke, it's not funny. Similar where if you got to explain the segue, I don't know if it works as well. Anyway, we're talking about
all this back in after you edited that.
Nice.
We are talking about Pokemon Sword and Shield. As of this recording, Monday evening, there was a 2-minute long video, 2-minute long clip that was released earlier, showing some more stuff to expect in the November release of Pokemon Sword and Shield. A couple of things that they highlighted. They finally introduced some new Pokemon. We knew about the electric corgi, but now they gave him a proper introduction, or her. It could be female as well. So they highlighted a bunch of new Pokemon. They highlighted a new ability They highlighted some more like trainers and stuff that you're going to see in the Galar region. A whole bunch of new stuff packed in 2 minutes. So let's just go one by one on all the things they talked about. New Pokemon. So Yamper, Electric Corgi, finally gets his own reveal. Roly-Coly, I think I'm reading that right. Roly-Coly, rock type, looks like a rock. There's not really much else to say. There's Duraludon, a steel dragon type, and there's also, okay, this is the one that got me. Alcremie,
I thought it was a la creme.
Alcreme?
I thought it was like French.
Alcremie. I mean, it's walking whipped cream. It's sentient whipped cream.
We've had ice cream Pokemon before, so.
What the Pokemon Company, really walking whipped cream? I'm probably gonna buy this game, but I'm going to be so angry about it.
I mean, there's already an ice cream Pokemon.
Yeah.
I mean, there's ice cream Pokemon, there's key Pokemon, there's garbage Pokemon. Yeah. I guess, why not? Whipped cream, boom, Pokemon. The new move that they highlighted, Gigantamaxing, which is different from Dynamaxing. Don't get the two confused. One makes your Pokemon really big. The other one makes your Pokemon really big and look really different. That's it. Why am I still going to play this game? Why do I still want to buy this?
There's the issue right there. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised by the somewhat recent outpouring against Pokemon design decisions. The biggest controversy, and this has been going for a while, is the national dex being taken out of the game.
Yeah.
So basically not all the Pokemon previous were in the game. Game Freak cited, having new design, like, for animations, limited the scope. Several videos have been posted of the new Pokemon and their new animations, and it honestly looks like garbage. There was a clip of a guy running, and it was just the walking animation, but fast. Like, the game looks like
how do
garbage.
We make them run? Walk, but times 2 speed.
And not to sound like, a little bit of a parrot of every time I bring up Pokemon, but Game Freak has not put effort into a Pokemon game in over a decade, basically since the first one. I think they've grown complacent. I think they know it'll sell, so they don't try. And I think this is the first time that people are starting to wake up to it because it's a full console version.
Yeah.
The game looks like Sun and Moon, in some cases worse. The big picture on Reddit is the one of the trees in the outdoor area looks worse than Ocarina of Time trees. Like, the game is clearly low effort. Again, Game Freak is like, oh, but we have a small team and we're focused on another thing. And everyone's like, but why are you focused on it? Like, if Pokemon is your cash grab, like, big maker, why not focus on it? And they say they're a small dev team and stuff. And I'm glad people are waking up to it. I actually think I made the decision that I'm not going to buy this Pokemon game. And I've bought so many stupid Pokemon games in the past and play them. And I'm like, why do I still buy these? The decisions they make are terrible. This Gigantamax, Dynamax, no one wants it. Like, it just
makes
looks
no
dumb.
sense. It's just Dynamaxing with, like, a different skin for your Pokemon.
Yeah, they basically come up with a new idea each game for how to, like, make a Pokemon just overpowered for one move or something, and then they make new Pokemon and that's it. And they churn out a game a year, and it makes them tons of money. So hopefully people will not buy this game. I know they're going to, because people just are,
because we're gonna eat it up,
because it's Pokemon.
no pun intended for the ice cream Pokemon or whipped cream Pokemon.
But personally, I hope that this is the wake up call that gets people to not buy the game like it normally does, and hopefully it doesn't sell as well. And that's the message you got to send to Game Freak, not posting on Reddit about how removing the national dex like stinks. Because the worst part was that I forget his name. But the director of the game basically came out in response to the national dex thing and had a video, and he was like, "We've heard what you said," and did like acknowledged it, and then was like, "But we're not changing anything by." Like, literally that's what the video was. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know. Didn't he also say in that video? And again, this is just more of him just giving reasons why they're not bringing the national decks back and bringing like the old Pokemon back. But he's like, listen, we almost have 1,000 Pokemon, in the entire series. Do you know how much work it would take to animate 1,000 Pokemon?
Yeah. And then like you have footage from the Pokemon Coliseum games where Pokemon have unique individual animations for a tremendous amount of different moves. So it's like, okay, like if you're gonna say that it was too much to animate all the Pokemon, then why do the moves still look like garbage? Like the little corgi thing, they showed a double slap move that it was doing, and it literally just pops up twice. Doesn't move, doesn't do anything. Wingles in the environment literally just like move, like just
they just kind of like
not even gliding, just straight movement. Like turn radius is not even existent. Like it's a low effort game and it deserves not to be bought. That's me ranting. Sorry. Tim, what do you think about the whole thing?
I mean, I've been making this argument about Pokemon for the past 10 years. They've earned their share of the market and they have been resting on their laurels since the first game. They've, I'm not saying they haven't improved the formulas at all. I'm not saying that there's nothing of value in any of the games that have come out since, but they have been so scared of deviating from their formula that they will literally change as little as possible, and it's getting to the point where people are starting to notice. It's taking people long enough, but I don't think it's going to matter at the end of the day. People want their colorful little animals, and they will get them. And I know that sounds really patronizing from somebody who played a lot of Pokemon, but it's just what it is. They have their fan base, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think it's really condescending to say that this is a small dev team. It's like, then hire more people. You can afford it.
You are the most successful franchise on the planet in the history of humankind.
Any medium,
take people off of Pokemon Sleep and make them work on Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Pay me $20 an hour. I'll make an animation. It'll take me a while. I don't really know anything about it, but you can afford it.
Yeah, that's a rough thing. The thing is, they just have such a good segment of the market, which is young children, and not necessarily. I'm just saying that, but like you have kids who like want to play Pokemon, like who maybe don't care that much about quality of game, stuff like that. And then you have diehard, like the PvP / collect every single Pokemon guys and girls who literally will buy Pokemon anything. So those two segments are probably like a massive market share combined, and then you have idiots like us.
I was about to say, like the idiots like us who are like, this is stupid and uninspired. Yeah. Pokemon Sword and Shield are out. Which one did you get? Sword.
But that's the thing, is the nostalgia factor is so there that it tempts people, because it's like, oh well, but like maybe this one will be different, and it won't be.
No, it's not going to be different. So. I'm gonna buy. Like I'm freaking out and ranting about this right now. But come November, I'm going to be online. I'm
taking a stance. I'm not buying this one. I'm out.
Like Tim and I, like when one of our previous episodes, when they did like the first reveal and they showed the 3 starters, and Tim and I were like, these are completely uninspired starters. They look like trash. And now we have whipped cream Pokemon, which, by the way, when you use the Gigantamax, it turns into a cake.
See, I thought that was like cute. I was into that part. Like the Pokemon designs, I don't care about.
They got me back.
Garrett's like, all right, I'm back on board. I'm buying it for the cake.
Yeah. I'm actually taking a stand, and I'm not purchasing this one.
You're making the right decision.
Yeah.
I hope I make the right decision too, but
we'll see. Berto's gonna get it and be like, no, it's pretty cool, and then
I'm gonna get it and be like, oh no, it's totally awesome. Gigantamaxing is the best thing in the world.
It'd be funny if Berto just spite game clubbed us with that. It was like, this is the game club game.
Can anybody honestly answer me though, like from a mechanics perspective, what the difference between this Gigantamaxing is and the Mega Evolution was?
Gigantamax.
Honestly, it's.
I don't know.
The difference between the Mega Evolutions and Gigantamaxing is that one of them makes your Pokemon bigger.
Yeah. I think it gets more powerful. Right?
Didn't it get more powerful with the Mega Evolution also?
I mean, the Mega Evolution. I mean,
didn't the Mega Evolution
I know
give
a little bit about
moves?
Pokemon, and it sometimes would change their abilities. It sometimes would change maybe even their types. I could be wrong about that, but it would change a few little things aside from just making them more powerful. But I still think it was dumb. But what does this other one do from a like? That's what I'm asking. Like,
from a mechanics perspective, absolutely nothing.
I think
I guarantee you, it probably
it's just a stronger Pokemon.
It probably just makes it stronger. It makes it bigger, and then it makes it look different. In vis-a-vis tete-a-tete ergo. Example being
you can't just start dropping words.
Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna drop random words to make it look like I'm smart, but I'm really not.
Yeah.
Case in point, whipped cream Pokemon becomes cake Pokemon. Whereas with the the Mega Evolutions is like, hey, you got Charizard now. He's black and blue Charizard.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like the Gigantamax changes the actual. It's only certain Pokemon, and they actually change form, which just seems like Mega Evolution to me again.
That's exactly when I heard about the Gigantamaxing, and then I saw, I'm like, so basically big Mega Evolution.
Yeah, it seemed like what they wanted from a design standpoint was, hey, we want big Pokemon in an arena, and it's like, why not just make it like a Yu-Gi-Oh thing where it's just a hologram, and then bake in like Pokemon Coliseum into it, where it's like, okay, here's the Pokemon Coliseum game you've wanted too, where it's like, okay, like you can battle out in the stadium with big projected Pokemon or whatever. I don't know. Don't buy it.
They need to get Exodia as a Pokemon.
They probably they have one, maybe. Big naked bronze
They have
guy.
an Exodia Pokemon.
Who knows?
Exodiamon.
Should we move on?
It's like Digimon, really, but
what is Digimon?
Let's bring back Digimon.
Digimon's still going, isn't it?
I don't know.
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? Did Digimon have a Gigantamax thing?
Well, they just kept going, right? I think they did, yeah, because they would shoot back down, right?
I don't know.
They'd become like super monsters, and then they would go back to normal on certain ones.
So they were Gigantamaxing before Pokemon was Gigantamaxing.
Yeah, yeah.
Digimon was ahead of its time. You heard it here first, folks.
Bring back the dance moves, because those were good.
Wait, dance moves?
Yeah, you don't remember you had to dance with your Pokemon?
Oh, yeah, in Sun and
Tim's
Moon. There was like that one gym leader where it's like, you have to beat me by dancing.
Yeah, I don't know. Pokemon stinks.
Oh, that's just Z moves. That's still in the game, right?
I don't think so. Is it? Probably
not.
It wasn't they seem to just take out the last thing and put in a new thing, which is they're all very similar, so they're not really doing new things. I'm gonna bulldoze this topic because enough with Pokemon. Segment 3, Game Club. We picked Void Bastards for our Game Club. For those of you that don't know, our Game Club topics are basically we like pick a game beforehand. Hopefully you guys play along with us, 2 weeks to 4 weeks beforehand. And basically we just kind of do like a talk about said game. So this was Void Bastards. We played for the last month, I think. 2 weeks? Maybe a month. Or we had the opportunity to play for a month. And yeah, so let's just roll right into it for segment 3, Void Bastards Game Club. What was your expectations going in, and how do you feel now that you've played it? We'll start with Tim, maybe.
So I knew next to nothing about this game going into it. I heard talk of System Shock. I heard roguelike elements, and that was about it. But I went in not, I saw the art style. I had, cell shaded graphics. I thought it looked really cool, and I just jumped in and started playing it, and I was having a great time. It's got a really cool style. The general game loop of kind of like searching for, trying to salvage as much as you can, finding upgrades, things like that, was really enjoyable. I had a great time, just kind of like blasting enemies, trying to be as efficient as possible, finding out, the best ways to defeat certain enemies and things like that. And for about the first 5 or so hours, I was having a great time. And after I completed one of the missions, I started hating the game.
Fair. Well, hold on. Before we get into the pros cons,
yeah,
let's skip to Berto. Berto, what is your initial impression, and what did you think going in, and what do you think now a little bit?
So also coming into this game, I didn't really know much about it. I just had seen that it was getting a lot of buzz. Again, System Shock vibes, roguelike, first person shooter. I looked at some screenshots and I was like, okay, I'm feeling the aesthetic. I definitely was drawn into the artwork of the game. Got my hands on it first couple of hours. A lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed the the roguelike elements of the game. Having one good run and it feels like everything's just falling your way, and then all of a sudden you're just like, fuck. I just entered this one ship where everything is going against me. Everything's on fire. There's live wires everywhere. Screws all over the place, and you kind of know that that's it. This is where your run ends. I like that feeling. I like that feeling where you're like trying to plan your route out. You look at which ships are around you, and you're like, okay, what elements or what items are in this ship? Don't want to just bypass this ship. Oh crap, I have no food left. I've had a bunch of instances where I was trying to hopefully float my way over to the next ship, only to have my guy die en route because I didn't have enough food left when I finally, docked onto the ship. I enjoyed those elements of randomness. That being said, I did find it, to Tim's point, after a couple of, it's like, okay, you finally got this item, and now you got to get this next thing, and then you got this thing. Oh, but wait, you need one more thing. It felt like more of the same at that point, and it felt like just the same game loop over and over and over, and it wasn't really innovating on that. And it seems like what the hook was for the game was, but hey, it's like random ships and you get cool weapons and more enemies, and like that was the hook that was meant to keep you in it, but it didn't really feed you any new like sort of mechanics along the way. So that to me, the sort of the fetch quest nature of it, where it's like, oh, you got to get more stuff now and it's deeper in the nebula, that to me started getting a little stale.
That's so my expectations going in, literally knew nothing about the game. As I was downloading it, it was like recommended review for you because you played FTL. And basically a guy wrote a big review on Steam and was like, FTL is one of my favorite games of all time, this and that, this and that. This game has replaced FTL for me as my new like go-to game. And I read that and I was like, oh my God, like FTL is in my top 10.
I was about to say, this is like you read that and you're like, this is a Garrett ass game.
I was so pumped up. I streamed me initially playing it. And like you guys, my initial impressions were phenomenal. And we can kind of just jump into some pros here. Yeah. I actually thought the FPS elements of it were really tight. Playing on mouse and keyboard felt great. Like the aimings felt good, even though I know it kind of makes you have not the best aim.
Yeah, it does.
But I love that part of it, that like headshots mattered. And like Tim said, the gameplay loop I think is pretty spot on from like a basic standpoint, which is essentially like having to make those critical decisions along the way, I think is the game's strongest point. And personally, I like that a lot of times fighting, not your best choice. A lot of times like running is your best choice, just running through, trying to grab whatever it is. You're running low on oxygen, this and that. Sometimes stealth is the best choice. I think that is the strongest point of the game, is that each little ship kind of gives you a different like gameplay route to follow. Because some ships are like awesome and you get lucky and you could just kind of snipe the little tourists and they'll blow the other enemy up and so on and so forth. What were some other pros you guys had about the games before we start getting into the cons? Because I as well also, as started playing through the game, definitely started to notice some flaws, definitely started to be less impressed as the game went on. But we'll start with some pros, maybe get deeper into those.
Yeah, I really liked a lot of aspects about the art, like before the monotony set in. The enemies all had like funny things they said. I really like the mechanic where when there's an enemy in an adjacent room, it'll show like in comic book font like a distinctive text box about like what like a unique one for each type of enemy, so you can like go like, oh well, I know that there's a screw in this area, like I'm gonna try and avoid that. I like that when you arrive on a new ship, you're like, okay, let me let me try and find the helm first so I can get the map.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can plan out the route that I'm gonna take before shit goes nuts, and I have to adjust on the fly. But like I really liked that aspect. It was really fun doing that. It was great. Like some of the weapons are really fun. I like the stapler. Like that's like a cool concept, including the upgrades. And for the most part, like the salvaging and things like that, it kind of works.
Can I piggyback on the little text box thing? I also thought the sound design was phenomenal in the game, as far as like the weapon sounds and the doors opening and the enemies and where they were, and obviously the game had some humor where the enemies are constantly like kind of talking shit to you or worrying about their daily
I can
tasks.
say you fuck face.
But like I felt like the sound design was so on point. And every little enemy was so well designed in that they had unique things, so you knew from like a second of hearing them who it was and what kind of situation you were in.
Yeah.
And it was cool when you get to like a certain depth and you'd be like, oh, I've never seen that enemy before. I don't want to land there. Like it was a cool, like, daunting thing for a while.
The just piggybacking off of what you guys said, the enemy design is fantastic. It's every enemy very well crafted. They each had, like, I like that every enemy had their own personality, and how some of the enemies you saw them, and like with the tourists, for example, you're like, oh, these guys I don't have to worry about. Like when you hear like the squishy sound next door, or you hear like, have you seen my husband? You're like, okay, I don't have to worry about what's in the next room. Versus where if you're walking down a corridor and you start hearing like a thump, 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 you're like, okay, I gotta go the other way because I know what the fuck is over there and I don't want any piece of that. Versus, what are those enemies? The one that I asked you about recently, where it's like, hey, is there any way to get around these like old lady looking things?
Yeah.
Or
the
so
Zach?
I think those, like the character designs, the enemy designs, all flawless. The fact that they each have their own, like the sound design, not just for the game in general, but for them specifically, how you can tell, like, okay, that's a tourist, that's a screw, that's a scribe.
I honestly think the sound is one of the best points of the game because, like you were saying with the tourists, you hear a tourist, you're like, oh no, not a big deal. When you hear the tourist charging up behind you because it's gonna blow up,
you hear like
that'll kill you.
You're like, oh shit.
The sound was very well put. Do you guys think there was enough enemies in the game, or did you? Because I know they kind of reskinned the enemies and gave them some stronger abilities at points.
Right. Yeah, I think that was an issue. Part of it's just that I think there could only be, was it 2 or 3 different types of enemies on any given level?
I think 3 was the max. Although there was situations where more than 3 were possible. Which was basically the little like warp in spawning portals thing.
Like the voids.
Yeah. Because I saw ships where an enemy I had not seen on the ship before spawned in, and it was essentially a 4th type of enemy. I mean, that being said, there was also the security enemies and stuff like that. So,
but it's really cool the first time you fight any of the enemies. You're like, whoa, this is really cool. And then you start to see reskins, and you're like, this is not new to me. This is not interesting. It's just like this. That to me was tedium, when it was just like, okay, I gotta shoot more bullets. I gotta be a little bit more careful. Like, it didn't feel like to me there was enough of a difference, or like enough. If there were more enemies possible, I think, like, how many different types of enemies were there if you disregard the reskins? Like 5?
It's tough because like security has like essentially a turret, a secbot, and a camera. You got the floating heads, the juveniles, the Zeks,
the janitors,
the screws, janitors, and then the floaty runaway guys. Oh, and essentially I think it's 10 because you got the spooks too.
Right. I forgot about the spooks.
As well as, so there's the janitors that come at you, and then there's the guys that run away that I forget what they're called, but they scribes, I think they're called.
Right.
See, I actually, and tourists too. Did I say tourists?
By the way, the scribes are fucking scary. If you look at them, they're essentially like floating and they're like bent backwards like this way.
Yeah, it's hard to get headshots on them because of that. So when I was thinking about the game, I did think like the reskins were a little bit boring, but I actually think there's an appropriate amount of enemies for the game. I think it being a first-person shooter is the tough part because in a game like Binding of Isaac, I think it's much easier to design an enemy in a 2D space that's different from another one. So I didn't think necessarily like the enemies were lacking. I think the tedium kind of comes from other things more so.
And it maybe it's just more apparent. It feels like there aren't that many different enemies because you're literally doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Like every single time.
Also, a lot of the strategies, like I was just outright avoiding some enemies half the time. So like,
oh yeah.
So I think that's part of it too. Is that like you're basically like selectively picking easier enemies as you play too. Obviously, you encounter all of them eventually, but you know, Zeks were some of the hardest enemies I thought. So I would generally avoid ships with them, and on the ships with them, I basically would sacrifice a weapon slot specifically to deal with them. But so gun variety you mentioned before, Tim. I thought the gun variety was pretty good. I thought they were pretty.
Oh yeah,
unique.
I thought it was fantastic.
I think that's a good pro, but well, I guess we'll get into some cons, right? We already sort of did. I'm trying not to avoid it. So my biggest fault in the game, and I think it's from a multiple kind of point of things. I think the progression is the issue I had with the game.
Yeah.
In that, in a roguelike, whatever you want to call it. I think this one should be light, maybe, but that's a tough phrase. I hated the fact that my individual run felt like it didn't matter so long as I was progressing overall. And that maybe for some people that's a good thing because essentially the game has the sense of progression where you're constantly giving your character a better starting chance through the workshop items and stuff. But I kind of hated how me dying on a run didn't feel like a big negative. Essentially all you lost was your credits and your ammo. Which that's a big thing sometimes. The personality traits, while being cool, I didn't think were impactful enough to really matter. I had some that were dynamite. I had one early on where tourists didn't blow up if you went near them. And that was big because it kind of let you basically have explosives that you could set off whenever you wanted. But most of the traits didn't feel that important. So a lot of times I found it like, if I die, whatever, but so long as I get this item, I've progressed. Do you guys kind of agree in the what do you think about the progression?
I feel early on when you died, it was not as big a deal because you knew you were always going to get, depending on your weapon loadout, and maybe this is just the way the game was designed because when you have a limited number of weapons, it's like, well, you're always just going to get ammo for that. When your weapon cache started expanding and you had like 4 or 5 different types of guns, I think that's when the deaths maybe mattered a little bit more. Maybe still not a big deal, but it's like you were hoping to get ammo for your stapler or for your rivet gun, but you got handgun ammo and something else, and you're like, all right, shit, I was hoping I was going to get started off with the stapler, but I guess I got to make my way with the handgun. So that, when I got towards the later sections of the game, when I had more weapons, was kind of annoying, and that made the deaths seem a little bit more important and made them matter a little bit more. But again, never to the point where I was like, oh fuck, shit, I died. Now I'm like, I'm really screwed for the next run. It was just more of an inconvenience because I was like, fuck, now I don't have stapler ammo. I got a handgun that I got to start off with.
I mean, I gotta come clean. I did not finish the game. I made it pretty far in, I feel like within the first 2 days of getting the game, and then over the course of the next few weeks, I tried to play it like 4 or 5 times, and every time I loaded it up, I was like, I can't play this game right now. I really don't feel like, because every time you load up the game after you, because I would always get to a mission completion, and then it shows you that little comic book thing,
yeah,
and then I would quit and be like, okay, I'll come back to this, and then every time you load back in, it makes you watch that little comic book thing again, and I would see it and I'd be like, I gotta get 3 more items. I don't want to play this game right now, and I just quit. But I actually never died over the course of playing the game, so I never really experienced that kind of thing.
But I feel that's crazy. That's wild to me.
I feel like if I had died, it probably would have discouraged me sooner, because I think having the idea of being like, yes, I've got this guy going. I'm still like, I had a few close calls, but like I've got this good system. Like I'm playing it safe. I've got like loads of fuel and food. I'm set for a while. But I would something. Like, maybe it's the progression, maybe it's something, but just the fact that every single time you complete a mission, it's just like, get 3 more things. They're deeper in space. You gotta go. Mm-hmm. And it was just it became so unappealing to me, where I'd be like, well, I guess I'll just jump around and, find all these materials that I need. And
yeah, in a weird way, it's almost like the joke that the game is making is sort of true.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Like the humor rubs off when you're actually feeling the way that the character is feeling in the game. Where you're like, I'm so tired of this shit. Like,
where it's like after you get it's like, hey, you got a line printer and you made an ID card, but by the way, you got to make a computer now. And the player character is like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, and I appreciated the humor in the game. I thought the humor was okay. And Tim, I think this. The biggest thing again, and I think part of the reason why maybe you didn't like the game, and I did play the game on hard difficulty, so I thought the difficulty was actually really on point in that difficulty, because it tread the line between, there was some ships that were insanely difficult and some ships that were like pretty easy, and it never felt like I wasn't somewhat challenged, except for on like a couple ships that were just like complete layups. I think the real issue with the game is that what's missing from it, that I think are in other roguelites, that I think is the key to that genre, is the sense of power, and that you never really feel that powerful. And even for you, Tim, like, you've never died, so like you probably didn't feel weak at any point. But something like Binding of Isaac, where you get the right upgrades and you have this crazy powerful weapon or something, that's the reason why Binding of Isaac is a fun game to play, I think. It's really just the adaptability of like what you find out in the wild is what you have to deal with, and sometimes you can make it into this amazing thing.
Yeah.
And I think if the game had a tremendous amount more of per run randomness, as far as like not just the ship being kind of random, because that's where most of the randomness comes into the game, I think, but your character getting like maybe more powerful traits, or you find like weapon upgrades that only last for the run that do some really crazy shit. And I was just like brainstorming stuff like, the rifter, where you can rift a guy and then like let him go or something like that. If you got a rifter upgrade where like it rifted you into the guy and like he would explode or something, but you could also use it to like move through areas and teleport, like throw a gravity gun in there, you know what I mean? Throw like a Half-Life gravity gun where you grab the character and you can blast it at other characters. Like stuff like that, I think would make the gameplay so much more enjoyable and less tedious, because the power level and power spikes really just come from like, I got a gun upgrade, so it's better. And none of them felt that strong. There was definitely points in the game where like the first time I upgraded the Germ Spiker, I was like, oh, holy shit, this gun's so strong. But like, I never really had that like, moment where I was like, oh man, this run is like the run. You know what I mean? Because that kind of slow progression of just like, well, I'm just getting items for the next guy anyway. So like, what does it matter?
I don't know. You guys were saying that you like the weapon variety, but from my perspective, it seemed like going in, there was almost never any decision making. So like, based on the enemies you were fighting or gonna go up against, it was like you either wanted like the Germ Spiker or the Taser, and then the grenade or or whatever you would call it, the secondary weapon, was always whatever you had the most of for me. And then same with the primary, it's like, are there screws? Need the stapler? Are there smaller guys? Just take the handgun. Like, it was almost like never really like a kind of, it was very boilerplate as to like the decisions that you make going into it. And I mean, I didn't experience that many different traits because I was just the same guy, but like you still have all those gene splicing machines that you can use, and none of them were cool enough or like annoying enough to make me really be like, wow, like there's some variety in the game.
Yeah.
It really just felt like just the same stuff over.
I think in the entire time I played the game, there was only ever 2 or 3 times where I got an ability with one of my prisoners that was a negative ability. Every time I feel like I've got an ability, it was almost always a positive.
Oh, that's weird because anytime I hit the gene randomizer, it was always a negative. It would always take my positive ability and give me a negative one.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm talking about when you first get a new inmate.
Oh, weird. I wonder if that's a difficulty thing because every inmate I had started with a negative ability.
Maybe.
And almost there was one time I hit the gene randomizer on the map and it gave me a positive one. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like,
maybe because I was playing on normal, so maybe that's a thing with when you play on hard. That's how it makes the game harder, is by giving you more propensity to get a negative ability. I think there was like one time where, and I think you got this one time, Garrett, also, where it's like your person coughs all the time. So if you're trying to hide, all of a sudden you have a it like gives you away.
I had one where you could detect enemies on the minimap, and that was probably the strongest ability that I got in the game.
I had that once. I had one where it's like you could see where all the food is, and I'm like, great, because I always run out of food.
Yeah.
Like in real life.
So to kind of touch on both those points, I think balance is a big issue in the game a little bit, because I think the reason why weapons are somewhat monotonous is that certain weapons are just much stronger than others. Tim mentioned the Zapper, by far the strongest item in the game because it works on all mechanical enemies and it also stuns regular enemies. So
yeah, it is great. Yeah. Every time I go out, I'm like, the Zapper is it's like a standard on my loadout.
Yeah. Whereas like the cluster bomb, I thought was terrible. Like it seems like it's good, but it really isn't because
I was so excited when I got that, and then the prime time on that thing is so long that even when you upgrade it, it still takes so fucking long to prime and explode that it's absolutely not worth it.
And I think therein lies part of the issue with like not giving the fun randomness to the runs. Because it'd be cool like if you got like a cluster bomb upgrade that makes your cluster bomb like do some like it just riffs everything it touches or something like that. Like something super powerful like that to me would add the level of like, okay, let me adapt and use this instead.
Yeah.
So, and I think at its core, this game is basically like the base game's great, but they like if they released an expansion,
that's what it came down
to. Yeah,
it
was just too long for what it had. And that's what's funny. It wasn't even necessarily that long, but it was just like the ships like weren't unique enough to be that interesting. The enemies weren't unique enough to be that interesting. I forgot that there were pirate enemies too that were nightmarish. If you ever encountered them.
Oh God, I think like 2 or 3 times that I think I encountered them because they happened to land on the ship where it's like, hey, this is the thing you need to advance the story, and I'm like, motherfucking pirates are right here.
Yeah, and if you got a torpedo, you could just blow them up, which was nice.
Yeah. Torpedoes also work against the space whale. You ever encounter the space whale? Because you know what happens.
You get a lot of food.
you know what happens if you get one of those fuckers and you don't have a torpedo? It's instant
death. Insta death. Yeah, I didn't know that until very late in my run, and I was like, oh, is that what happens?
It's like I landed on the same thing as a whale, and then you hear the, and it's like, oh, space whale, you're dead, and I'm like, oh fuck.
But yeah, it's funny because we all kind of agreed on this one. And I didn't expect us to be honest, but clearly they're if we're all agreeing somewhat, then there is some sort of an issue with the game, maybe. I think if they put out an expansion and really expanded upon all the mechanics, it would help, because I also did think like stealth wasn't really well thought out.
Yeah, considering that when you had your first sort of like intro run where they like explained the mechanics of the game, there was an emphasis on, oh, you gotta hide and make your way through here. Like in that very first scenario in the game, it gave you the impression like stealth was going to be a bigger aspect of the game than it really was. And I don't think I ever needed to use stealth, and if I ever crouched and hid my way around things, it's because I was like, for shits and giggles. It's not like I ever really needed to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there was situations where I used it, certainly, and I don't know if that's a difficulty thing, maybe, but I think the main issue with the game is there's too much of a time constraint on it. I think the O2 was a unique thing, and I think maybe it should have been restricted to like only sometimes, because I found more often than not that just running through the ship is kind of your best play. Like if you come against a strong enemy, just bounce, try to lock the door. Obviously there's certain times where you can't, but especially because of the respawn points, any ship with a respawn point in it just ruined the entire ship for me, because I was like, okay, well, like there's no point in me killing enemies because they'll just respawn, and there's no point in me staying on the ship because I'm just going to lose a lot of resources. So
unless it was like if I ever walked into a ship that was nothing but voids, and unless it was just nothing but tourists in that ship, I would be like, you know what, I'm just going to run my way through, get whatever I need to get, and get out of here, because there's just no use. You're just going to be dumping ammo.
Once in a while, there would be a ship where it was like, okay, I can take my time somewhat. But it was few and far between. And it didn't, I feel like ships didn't give enough options to kind of utilize like the different things. Like at a conceptual level, you should be utilizing those things, but more often than not, just blitzing through and locking doors and stuff was the way to go.
And to tie more into just like the kind of repetitiveness of it is, even though there was a decent amount of different layouts, by a few hours into the game, you've seen pretty much every hallway, room, and area that you're ever gonna see. You're not gonna, like, unless you've just avoided certain types of ships, there's nothing that's gonna be new to you. And once it gets to that, it, like, the kind of thrill of like exploring a new place is gone. And you're just like, okay, these are just rearranged little dial sets that I've seen a billion times before. It's like you said, there's no sense of progression. It's really like, yeah, you're fighting harder enemies. Yeah, you've got more weapons and there's more enemies and things like that. But you're still running through the same area that you've been running through the entire game. And that is I think the heart of why the game falls in on itself by the end.
Yeah, because I think the randomness is in the wrong spots a lot of time. And again, like you said earlier, like the fact that if you go to the helm, you get the mini map, like that's cool. That's a cool element. But at the end of the day, it's basically like, okay, you get on a ship, you go to the helm. Like, why would you not go to the helm first? You get on a ship and the power's out. Okay, you go to the generator.
Then you go to the helm.
There's no helm. I guess I'll just go around and look for some stuff.
Yeah, and I almost felt like the game would have benefited more from like the ship is essentially dark to you. Like you don't know where the rooms are at first.
And you kind of just stumble your way through.
Exciting to find the helm. The issue with that is then the rooms would have to be more powerful than they are, because like the caffeine boost was like, okay, cool. The security room was like, okay, cool. But those are basically like for the next 20 seconds or so, you're gonna have a slight advantage.
Right.
Whereas if the rooms were a little more powerful, I think that would have helped too. Like. Because the helm is obviously objective number one every single time.
Oh yeah.
The generator only works at certain ones. The security room doesn't really do any. Like I never actually paid to turn all the security off.
No,
that was
I
just
did like a couple times just for convenience.
Yeah.
And when I was low on ammo, it's like, okay, sure, I'll do this. But like, it's like you said, not enough out of it. And I remember the very first like screw that you find is in a security room, or at least it was for me, and I just tanked hits, being like, oh, I'll turn the security off, and it just realized that like it doesn't affect any enemies except for like the turrets and stuff, and I was just like, oh well, that's the last time I looked into doing that. Like,
yeah,
screw the security room.
It's also weird that when security, like when the power's off, you can't like hack the security things. It was like, oh man, like the power off things seem weird to me. It seemed like the concepts were there, but they just didn't flesh out the right way. Because like turning the power off, like you can't use doors anymore. That's unique. But basically, what it is like, oh, you just have to run to this room first. Is how that played out. Like, there's no situation where you're gonna be doing anything without the power turned off because you can't loot anything.
Yeah.
And that seemed weird to me. Like, you're basically just putting a quick obstacle in instead of having a unique thing where, like, I feel like if the power's off, it should be like, okay, all the security's down, which was true, but like you can still loot stuff, but you lose the advantage of doors. And that, I think, like, if you balance the rooms and made them more powerful as each room, it would be interesting because you could play through a ship and be like, I'm going to sacrifice the ability to close and lock doors for the added benefit of like security doesn't work on this ship. Like, that to me makes more sense than, oh, if the power's off, you just have to go to that room. I don't know if you guys ever played on the ships where the power would keep going off.
Yeah,
those
I
were
had one of those
worst.
where it's like, oh, by the way, the power like randomly shuts off. So after a minute, it's like, fuck, I got to go back to the generator now.
Yeah, and that's again the key issue I think with the game is the ups and the downs and the power spikes and the power lows really just come from this ship is easy, or this ship is like I'm well equipped for the ship, or this ship is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah,
and I should just run through it or skip it.
I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but it's been my experience, and maybe it's just part of the difficulty thing. I generally found that on the ships where I needed to get something to advance the story, those ships were nightmarish. Where
Usually,
it was like,
yeah,
I'd get to the ship and it's like everything's on fire. Oh yeah, and there's nuclear waste and screws and floating heads.
Yeah.
Good luck. And I'm like, oh, and there's blackouts. And I'm like, geez, what else can we fucking throw on the ship that, like, on this one ship where I have, like, the one item that I need to get? Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, in a ship like that, the best option is obviously to just blitz through.
Oh, yeah. I was like, all right, well, fuck me. But how do I make my way through this? It
sucks that, like, it would be so cool if you had found a power-up that made your guy good at that ship, where it's like, okay, fire no longer affects you, or you're able to, like, hover over obstacles or something. Like, that to me was really at its core. The more I played the game, the more I wished for that Binding of Isaac kind of power spike and fun abilities. But yeah, I don't know. I did complete the game. I thought it was worth a playthrough. I think it's worth a playthrough for anybody who's kind of interested in those roguelite games, especially if you get frustrated with the random elements a little bit, because this game I don't think is that frustrating because you have that sense of progression. Personally, it's not a design choice that I liked, but you do have that progression where you are constantly getting better, even if you are kind of failing occasionally. But yeah, maybe play the game on hard difficulty. I don't know. Did you guys both play on PC?
Yeah.
And Berto, use the mouse or use the controller?
I'm a heathen.
Oh my god, dude, that must have been so difficult. I can't imagine.
It actually
playing
was
this
when
game
you were
with
talking about like the first-person shooter mechanics. You're like, the first-person shooter mechanics are actually kind of tight. In the back of my head, I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Well, that's because you're using a controller. That's your fault. You played on super hard mode, is what that is.
Because I'm like, that was one of the things I noticed immediately. I'm like, this is not like the first-person shooter mechanics in this are not very tight. But in the back of my head, I was also like, I'm also playing on controller, so maybe that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, I did have and I'm kind of running out of stuff, but I did have a final kind of question for me personally. Do you think the first-person part of this game is part of the reason why it couldn't be all that it could be? Because I do think personally that that's like kind of the issue, is you're taking a category that, as far as I know, is generally like a 2D kind of category for the most part. At least the good examples.
As far as like roguelikes?
As far as roguelike or roguelites, the ones that I like, that I think are pretty good, have generally been 2D. So I think this was like a bold step as far as like mixing that first-person shooter in there. I'm sure there are other games that might have done it. And I think they made a pretty good effort, but I do think that might be part of the difficulty, because how do you design enemies that are unique enough and environments that are unique enough in that first person setting? And I actually think with the enemies, they did a pretty good job overall. But do you guys think the first person element is part of the reason why the game ended up monotonous, or do you think not so much?
I don't think the first person mechanic ended up being one of the reasons why the game felt monotonous for me personally. It was just that loop of, great, you got the thing you needed. Now you need to get 3 more of the thing. Oh, you got those. Now you need to get 4 more of the thing you need. That sort of constantly moving the carrot at the end of the stick further and further away without really innovating how you get that carrot, it was that loop got monotonous because it was never a different way to get the things. It was always the same goal, but just deeper in the void. Go to different ships and get the other things. So that never changed. And that to me ultimately felt monotonous towards the end.
Yeah, I felt the same way where it's like the first couple times it's funny. Haha, I have to go back out and get some more stuff. Let's do it. And then, you do it a couple more times. You're like this is a little annoying. Like, I hope that they start to change the formula a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it happens a couple more times. And for me, I was just like, I can't do it anymore. It's lost any luster it has. I just don't feel like jumping around, getting, looting up and finding more stuff because there's really no, aside from little upgrades here and there, there's no progression. There's no like depth.
Yeah, that's what's weird. It has that permanent progression to it, but that progression doesn't feel good generally.
Yeah.
Aside from when you get like a new gun or a gun upgrade, but even then, because of the ammo, it's like, is it?
No, I think that the first person shooter mechanic, at least with this game, I think it works with this roguelike, whatever, whichever category it falls under. I think it works very well. I definitely think that you could have a first person shooter with that element work. And this is like a proof of concept where it's like, it works.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, at
the end of the day, I would say all of us had that initial, like, this game's amazing when we started playing. So that's kind of proof of concept right there, is that if they could just build on it and give it that longevity and that replayability, I think it could be a phenomenal game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you change up the formula so that the carrot and stick, doesn't feel repetitive, you could definitely make a first-person shooter roguelike, and the formula works. This is like a very good proof of concept that you could merge the two genres together and have something completely new and unique, and it doesn't feel out of place.
Yeah, we got a Viking Rage in chat is chiming in, aka Al. He basically was agreeing with us for the most part, but he did say as far as roguelites go, this is definitely the most he's played, and he thinks, at least I think I'm interpreting this right way, it's because of the FPS that made it kind of unique.
There you go.
And Tim, sorry?
I would venture to guess that the reason why this game fails is not because of the first person, but because of what you guys were saying, where it's like you don't really lose anything by dying, and it sounds like that's barely a roguelike. It's like you just lost some stuff, but the game keeps going from where you were, right? Like, you didn't really lose it. Like, roguelikes to me, for the most part, are like you start over from the beginning when you die. The whole goal is to get it all in one. You get that good run where everything works out and you do the whole thing in one go. Whereas this is just kind of like it's a roguelike in theory because you die and start with a new character and you lose some stuff, but it's not really like a roguelike. It has that one element of a roguelike.
It has permadeath and randomness in it, but not in the right ways. Thank God you didn't have to start from the beginning, by the way, when you died, because none of us would have finished the game, I don't think.
No.
Because I did find it weird, because when I started a new character, I was like, wait, where am I? Like, because you started at a higher depth and stuff, which I think was good the way the game is, that they did pick that design, but I think at its core, it needs more of that fun, random power element to it. Because, again, the objectives being monotonous, like Binding of Isaac is just get to the end. There's bosses, which helps. But I think it's those item combinations and power spikes that really do it. FTL's the same way, get to the end. But again, every little thing you find that's new and exciting is the exciting part. In this game, the excitement stems from this ship is easy or this ship is hard.
Or this ship is the most ridiculously hard ship in the world.
There was there was one ship I walked into, and I think I might have it on stream or recording. I was like, oh my fucking, like, it was instant death. Like, I walked in, there was a turret here, and like 80 enemies. It was nuts. So
Have you ever had an instance where you walk into a ship and like go into like 1 or 2 rooms and you're like, nope, not doing this, and just go right back out?
100% I have. And that was that one where I think I took like 900 damage in like 5 seconds, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave this one.
Yep, no, I'm going back to Steve.
Yeah, and that's again, like I did have a couple close calls where I was like choking on oxygen and I barely made it to the door and stuff. I think that element of it is exciting.
Actually, that there were some runs when on what was it, on Sunday, yesterday, when I had was it yesterday or on Saturday where you saw me? I was like streaming in that one room, and I'm
barely made it. Yeah,
I'm like, dude, I need to get the fuck out of here. And it was just by the skin of my teeth.
Yeah. But yeah. Anything else we all want to add? Should we do like a little review or score or whatever our fake bullshit is that we usually do?
I mean, I guess we'll give it one of those fake bullshit things we usually do.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, why not? So, Tim, how about you?
I give it 2 janitors out of 5 screws.
Sure, yeah. That's fair. Berto?
I'm going to give it an eyeball, 2 fingers, and a punch card.
Oh, I forgot about the little items. And I actually hated the little items because I got thousands of them. And I was like, what is this for? I am going to hold off because I'm actually making a video on this that I will probably be releasing by next week. So go check out
dude. Nice.
Dude, I'm all about the plugs today. I just need to re-record footage because I was recording at like 720p fuzz status and didn't realize. So probably next week I'm going to drop a little serious review critique video. It's just the same shit you heard here, but maybe you want to see some visuals to it. But yeah, I would give it a well, it was pretty good, and then it wasn't out of 20. So how about that?
I like that review.
Yeah, all right. So anything else? Any last parting words for Void Bastards? If you guys think they expanded on it or made a new game, would you be interested?
Yeah. I would.
Yeah. Okay. I think
I had a good time with it. I know that it sounds like we were saying a lot of negative stuff about it, but it did a lot of things that I enjoyed. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think they have a good foundation there, and there are a lot of things about the game that I did enjoy. It's for me maybe like a 7.5 and 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Which maybe more towards a 7.5 end on my, but again, that doesn't mean it's a bad game. That means it's still a good game.
Yeah.
So if they came out with some additional content, DLC, or maybe even like a Void Bastards 2, where I would definitely be, up for trying that, putting some money down and getting that and seeing what they do.
Yeah, now that I think I know the game, if they make some bonus stuff for it, I think it could be worth revisiting. I think it's worth visiting in the first place, maybe not for the price point at $30.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I'm so critical on it is just because I was enjoying it so much at first that it just feels like I wish they could have just
the formula is
getting
great.
Monotonous because I was really enjoying it, but it's just a shame.
The initial grab is great. Allison in chat, basically new enemies, randomly generated ships. He'd probably be into Void Bastards too. I'm gonna piggyback on that, and more random like power spikes in individual runs. And you got a pretty good
gameplay, really.
Yeah, because that's the thing. At the end of the day, you're just shooting things with the pistol and the zapper. The zapper is the best thing.
Stapler. Stapler's the way to go.
I never used the stapler. That was you guys were saying stapler.
Any game that has a kind of stand-in for a shotgun.
Yeah,
that's the stapler is this game shotgun, and I'm like that's my jam.
When I used the stapler against the floating heads and it did nothing, I was like, well, I'm not using this gun ever again.
Because it takes like 5 stapler shots to kill those. What you do with that is you throw a bushwhacker and then you explode the bushwhacker.
Oh, I just started using the riveter when ships had a lot of those.
That works too.
Yeah.
Did anybody use the toaster? Because I hated that thing.
The toaster.
I used it once and it was like never using this again.
The toaster I used on the Zex because I was like, oh, it makes sense. It shoots through windows, so it'll shoot through the shield, and it didn't, and I never used it a single other time.
Yeah, I think I got it once. Is the toaster the one that like takes a while to charge up and it shoots the beam up? Yeah, I think when I finally got it and I pressed I pressed the fire button and I saw it loading and like charging to shoot this like little pew, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah. I wish the game had a melee attack too. Like there were so many times I was like, I don't want to waste ammo, like where I was like under a peeper. Again, if you had a melee attack and then you got items and power ups that
that would be amazing. Like, I would walk up to the juvies and just punch him in the face, and they're like, "Do you see me now, fuckface?" Boom.
Yeah. What they really should do is just come up with cool things that you could pick up along your route, and just do that for the next couple months, and then just release that as DLC, and the game would be dope. But yeah, I think that's about gonna wrap it up on Void Bastards. We will maybe be coming at you with another Game Club game. Tim, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Next 2 weeks
in our next podcast, we'll drop that on you because Tim has officially won the role. He's going to be picking the next one. We're going to start going to a system where we can spitefully pick games for each other. So you might see some more anger on Split Screen Cynics.
Yeah,
some more divisive games, maybe.
We're taking the Game Club games from a more critical lens to a more like, we're going to play the shitty game lens.
Yeah. We'll see. It should be fun. But yeah, so
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
That is it for episode 29. 29. Game Club Void Bastards. We'll drop some plugs on you. You can see me streaming probably in 10 minutes at twitch.tv/GarrettGetsInto. I do want to plug You The Gamers. That's you, just the letter, thegamers.com. We are affiliated and our stuff is on that site. I've also started writing little articles and whatnot on that site, so you're going to see some more content going on there. Oh my god, that's so funny. Al just brought up hate mail. I don't know if anyone got any more hate mail, but if you did, please read it.
I think it was just that one time you just got that one bad comment.
The thing, we need more people to send hate mail, so please reach out to us.
I'm interested. I want to see like
get that much hate mail.
I want to see like the negative comments. I want to see I want to see the thumbs down, and I want to see what people say, because at least people will be talking about us.
So to get mad at us, check us out on Instagram, Split Screen Cynics. Take out the E's. So Split Screen Cynics. SplitScreenCynics.com is our website. We've slightly updated that. We might be adding more to the future as far as, kind of double posting our blog posts or whatever have you. A little more thoughts on there. Check out us on YouTube, Split Screen Cynics. I'm going to put a full video review for not only Void Bastards, but I have some other games that I'm working on. Just kind of backlog shit that I ended up playing. Berto, where can people find you at? Sorry, I'm plug city this episode.
You can find me pretty much on all the social medias at I'll Be The One and Only. If you're on Twitch right now, you can see right there. It's right on the screen. It's my Twitter. It's my Instagram handle. That's how you spell it. ALBIETHA1NONLY. That's pretty much the same across all my social medias. You can find me there. And I also stream on the Split Screen Cynics channel here on Twitch, usually Wednesdays and Thursdays. I'm going to finalize an actual time. I want to start getting a more regular stream going on those days, but you can check out the Split Screen Cynics Twitter, or on my Twitter, I'll usually tweet out when I'm streaming before I go live. That's where you can find me.
And Tim, hit us with some knowledge.
Yeah, you can find me at Panic at the Disco Fan 69 on Twitter, or you can email me at benditlikebeckham@dentalproblems.org.
What's your favorite Panic at the Disco album?
I don't know any of them.
Oh, come on. Not even the first one? I like the first one. So yeah, that is going to be it, episode 29. Thank you so much for listening. Yes. Please reach out to us in the future. Split Screen Cynics, keep on gaming. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye.
Phew, I'm turning my fan on. I'm sweating to death. Oh my god. We're still live.